So, a topic I wanted to share with you today is what is one of the biggest things I've learned as an agent and how did I learn it? So, that thing for me is if in doubt, write it down. And how I came about that is a few years ago in a very competitive market, I was working with some first time buyers. We had been through offer presentations on four other properties, which we had got beat out on. And oftentimes what happens, especially with first time buyers, is you want to be protected on all sides. So the first offer or two that you presentation that you go into, you have your full conditions. So your condition on financing, home inspection, and any others that might be important to that. So if you were on a country property, you needed septic and well as well. And so what oftentimes happens, especially in a competitive market, as you move through the process and you get more comfortable, you are willing to remove conditions to secure that property. So we were working on house number 5, and we were going to be one of 5 offers on presentation night, and that's exactly what my buyers decided to do. They were comfortable enough with the house and now with me in the process that they were willing to submit an offer with no conditions on financing or home inspection. So it was a totally firm offer if accepted. Well, at the end of the day, we were the highest priced offer, so my clients were able to secure that deal. Now, as an agent, there are certain things that I want to scan the listing for before I write the offer. One is chattels and fixtures. So that is, stove, microwave, washer, dryer, that kind of thing. We want to look for rental items. So rental hot water tank is a very common one. Rental furnace comes up occasionally. Rental air conditioning. Sometimes water softener and water filters are also rentals. They're not always disclosed in the listing. Now, interestingly enough, chattels and fixtures are one of the most litigated things in real estate transactions. I've even had it where sometimes sellers didn't even know they had a rental furnace or hot water tank, even though I was representing that seller. I had asked them the question. Sometimes they just don't know. So anyways, at the end of the day, I had scanned this listing prior to doing the offer. There was no rental items shown in the listing itself. So I wrote the offer up with the hot water tank being owned. Now, just as an extra layer of protection, I always put a clause in the Schedule A that says the seller represents and warrants that there are no rental items being conveyed to the buyer. And if there is, I'm paraphrasing, if there is, then the seller agrees to pay out these rental contracts on closing. So we were successful in securing this house. We were the highest offer. My clients were ecstatic, and we had about a 6-week closing, about a 45-day closing. 5 weeks into that 6, I get a call from the listing agent, and the listing agent asked me, and she was a friend of mine, and she asks me, "Are your clients going to assume the hot water tank?" And I was like, "What? What do you mean?" And she's like, "Duh." And are your clients going to assume the hot water tank? And I'm like, "Oh, maybe you should reread the contract." And at that point, the phone went dead. You could hear a pin drop as she went through the contract and found my clause. I guess she got so busy on offer night dealing with these 5 offers, she not only missed that I listed the hot water tank as an owned item under the chattels and fixtures, but I had also put this clause in. As it turns out, there was a rental contract on it. It was just forgotten to be listed in the actual listing itself. So because of that, it would have meant that my buyers would have gotten a free hot water tank, and it was to the tune of $2,500 that the seller would have had to have paid out, or in this case, probably the agent, because she was the one that actually made the error. So at the end of the day, everyone lived happily ever after. My clients agreed to assume the hot water tank. Again, they were well within their right not to. But these are things that you got to look for. I mean, we understand mistakes happen. As I say, chattels and fixtures are one of the most litigated things. So I always have a policy now, if in doubt, write it down, get it on paper, and then everybody knows what's going on. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ever reach out to me.